This is how we add listener. So we say that there is in a web.xml, we say that we have a listener and listener class. And you write your listener, custom listener, and in this case, I implemented HTTP session listener. Session listener, here the listeners are basically like they will listen or they will be listening to some particular event to happen. Okay, this is something like, when you click on a button, your button click event handler gets triggered, right? So in the Swing application, similarly, when a session is created, you want to do something. When a session is destroyed, you want to do something. So for that purpose, you can use HTTP session listener, or even you can even do. I'll not write that, but let me see what other you know TP session attribute listener. See here, HTTP session attribute listener. There is another attribute. I mean, another listener. Or I could say, let me say, when the same thing could be there, I could implement even this interface. Let me see how it really works. Session attribute listener. So what really happens is that session attribute listener will have, when a new attribute is added, added. Even not get name, no. I hope this is going to work. What is this? Event dot get value. Okay. So just that you have first listener is about when you create a session, this gets called. For second listener part, the HTTP session attribute listener, the moment you keep adding the properties or attributes to the session, or you remove from the session, second part gets kicked in. Now let's see. Now the other thing that I need to fix is this one. This code is not yet fixed. Okay, I need to quickly close this because I want to introduce you to Hibernate framework and confuse you more. It says new session is created, null. There is nothing there. Okay, and first let me log in here. So what I'll do is, let me clear this. Hurry, test one. Oh. Okay. Other thing that I wanted to actually wanted you guys to know is that I did some change. I discovered that how jQuery validation framework can be used in a simpler way, and I'll show you that. Come on. This is a regular file, and the file I'll be using is this one. Yeah. I'll explain that in a moment. See here, new session attribute is added. Okay, new attribute is added. I think session somehow it is getting created in the beginning. The first time when I try to use the page, that time itself, a new session is getting created. Uh, okay, I think okay. Otherwise, session attribute listener. I do this once more because the browser is different. So I must be having a new session. See here, this is the one that got created now. I mean, so I say that, when a new session is created, I'm getting this. I mean, I have the control. And similarly, when a new attribute is added to the session, this message is coming, new attribute is added, new session is created. They are coming from my listener. So that's how we can actually control your certain specific events in your application. Hope this is clear, right? The session listener, sorry, the listener concept. Any doubts on the listener? Yes, Jimmy? Jimmy, you have a question?
Hello?
Yeah. Do you have a question?
Yeah.
Okay.
My question actually, yeah. Where we check the login username and password, like in a browser. If I close it and again if I use Yahoo or Facebook, I get my session, right? So
Yes,
now
yes, yes, yes.
exactly
You get a fresh session if you close the window and you open one more.
so it's gonna be a new session.
Sorry.
So it's gonna be a new session.
Yeah. It's going to be new session. It's going to be new session. It should be new
But
session.
like in Facebook or Yahoo, if I close and open again, I still have my user ID there.
That's because see that you can implement using cookies.
Or just in cookies. Or
Yeah, they should be using cookies,
in
right?
session
There
we
is no
can't
other way.
store.
There is no other way. See here,
Okay. So they
I
install
closed the browser
cookies.
and opened again, yeah, because I'm not using that. I'm not storing that session ID into cookies. So what I can do is I can store the session ID into cookie.
And we can check with the filter, right? Every time is
Yeah. Exactly. You can do that. See, in the login servlet, what we are doing is I'm doing login, and once the login is successful, yeah, I'm setting an attribute to the session. So now what happens is session dot get ID. I get a session ID, right? So what you can do is you can response dot add cookie, new cookie, session ID, and session dot get ID. You can do this. That is the only way they could implement this. Or you try to remove the cookies from your system for Facebook and try to log in and try to see that whether they are able to show you your details or not. I'm sure they will not be able to do.
uh,
Getting
so
it?
in the filter, yeah. When we use filters, like you put star, so every time I send request, they're gonna check the cookie first, then they show the result.
Yes,
If I'm
exactly.
able to
That's
log.
one way they can implement. And if you look at Facebook, the complete application is actually implemented mostly implemented with PHP and MySQL.
Yeah.
Okay, but the
Yes.
concepts are similar. Okay, you take any technology, the concepts are similar. You can implement that, whatever you are discussing now, you can implement the same thing in .NET. I mean, understand the concepts are very, very important. And the PHP also, you should be able to do it. Okay, I'm
Okay.
familiar with PHP, but I'm not really like, I have never tried the listener concept or filter concept there. But you should be able to, there should be some option. Clear?
So in every request, we need to say they check cookies first, right? Then
Yes,
they
yes, yes, yes,
do
yes.
the business log.
Yes. You try to disable your cookies in the browser and see whether that behavior works. I'm sure that should not work. Okay.
Okay.
So,
Thank
I mean, the other part is session listener. So listener, I think it's more straightforward when compared to other things. That when a session is added, when a session is removed from the, I mean, when a session is, when you click log out, that time you want to destroy the session. So then this gets triggered. So the my point is that we can use the Spring framework. We can integrate using this approach. You can use a context listener. So the moment your application is loaded, that time itself this gets triggered and it will read all the beans. And then let me see what are the things. The Spring configuration file. See here, user BO and user Spring action. Okay, user Spring action. This guy is actually the struts action class. Struts action class also is defining here, right here. And then see here, you can here there are two ways he is showing. One is this is how regular action class will be there. This is how action name and then you give the class. Sorry, you give the class. But then in the second one says class equal to I just gave a Spring Bean ID. Spring Bean ID and it works. See here user Spring action and here I'm saying user Spring action. The class equal to I'm not giving the complete class name, rather I'm giving a Bean ID. I mean this name and this name should match. And then that
But the sorry, bean ID is the object of the user Spring action. Right?
yeah, Bean ID is sorry, come again. Bean ID
Is the object like after the new kind? Is the object of that class, right?
yeah. It's a bean of that class. Yes, it is a bean of the. I mean same thing. See here, this class is there, right? User action. Okay. In the old approach, what we do is you actually say that you create that name and class, you give that complete stuff, class name. But suppose if you want your action class, within the action class you want to actually inject a data access object, you don't want to use new operator. What I can do is write one bean for DAO and then my bean for my action also declare that as a bean, and then you set the dependency. You set the dependency for the DAO, like here he is doing for business object, and I mean this is similar to whatever I am talking about. So the injection happens, and in the struts, when action this particular name is hit, okay, when this particular thing is hit, when you say that in your HTML page, if you are targeting that you are posting to something called user Spring action dot action, then the call will come here, and here it will figure out, okay, which class I need to invoke, and it says that okay, class equal to user Spring action, and then Spring is already there, Spring framework is integrated, so it will go and ask Spring framework, okay, give me this bean, and Spring will give the bean that it has. It will have an object for it, it will create object and it will give that particular object. And when it is giving the object, it will actually make sure that all its dependencies are resolved. Whatever it needs, any dependency, that dependency is injected. Right? Oh, okay. So that's about the basic listener and how we integrate Spring Framework into web applications. Okay, I did not do that part in the application, but rather the bonus thing for you is that the listener concept. Okay, so let me do a quick refresh about Spring Framework, how and what we did yesterday. So we need to download the Spring Framework from the website. Spring Framework from the website. Download, and latest one is 3.1 or so. So what we do is you download that application. You download the Spring Framework. Download it, and it comes. You have a big zip file there. I don't need to register here, and I mean you can register as well. I mean, and just to save some time, you can pretty much download this Spring Framework 3.1.1 release.zip, and it has a 27 MB, or you want with complete documentation, Java docs, and it gives you one reference guide PDF file. So you can download the first one, and that will have from that particular file. I selected the bare minimum jars and I placed into one folder and then added it to class path. I added the Spring Framework classes. See here, I added them to the class path in the Eclipse. That's first step I did, and then what I did is it goes here. First thing what I did was that the sample that I wanted to show you was that I have an interface called calculator, and a very stupid interface. There is no business logic, not too much of logic, just to show the dependency injection in a very hello world level. Now the calculator, what its responsibility is that it will add the numbers. I just have add functionality, and then I wrote that add logic. See here, I wrote add logic, and within that add logic, say I am actually calling another class called math_util. One sec, I was showing you something yesterday, so let me revert that change. One more. Okay, so the implementation what I have is I'm actually doing this add logic here in this method. I'm implementing custom calculator as an implementation for the calculator interface. Now here, just to explain the dependency injection, what I'm trying to do is that actual logic is executed by someone else, math.util. So I have math.util, another interface, and you don't need to have the interface actually explicitly, but just to have the same flow, I did add math_util as an interface. Now add logic. So this is actually here it is returning me the add logic. Okay, the first plus second variables. And the way I'm actually doing is that here I have interface. See here, my math_util is an interface in my class. In fact, calculator is also interface. Now what I'm doing is you need to have relate these things, application context and the calculator class. In application context, I say that if I have some dependency, if my class has another class in it and it uses that class, it creates that object and uses it. In that case, the object creation part, I can outsource it to Spring Framework. How? I say that, calculator has a property called math_util, and that refers to a bin called math_util. So math_util is the particular class name. Now here how it is working is, for the same property, if I say that, property name equal to math_util, then I must be having a set math_util method. Set math_util. You need to have a set method for the property, and then that takes the particular object that you say, what bin math_util. So Spring will create a bin for it, object for math_util, and it will call set math_util method with that particular bin, and what I do here, I'm setting it to my local variable. Here instance variable, it's a math util bean. So I say this that math util equal to math util, and now uh, when someone calls my the add method dynamically, like what actually gets called is that add method will be called, and then math util add logic will be called, because math util is already set using the set method. So that particular object is there with me, and this is how we are initializing. So first thing, when after once you add your jars to the class path, and then when you write your Java code, and then when you write your Spring configuration file, this is a plain XML file, and you must be having the, if you look at if you are doing some other application, you need to have this header part mandatorily. So this is mandatory, and you may need to, based on the other modules you are using, you need to extend it. You need to add some other lines here in the this 3 lines, right? You need to add some extra lines based on the Spring module that you are going to use. So Spring Beans is the, here I declared beans. This is mandatory that we need to have beans as a root element, and within this you write your beans, other beans, individual bean items. So this is the Spring configuration file, and in your main application, if you are writing a standalone application, this is how you can use initialize Spring framework and use it. See what I did here. Application context is an interface. Actually, there is a lot of theory around the application context, and also there is something called bean context. And actually, like bean context, I will not confuse you more, but bean context is also there. Bean context, there should be one, or bean factory probably. Yeah, bean factory is there. Yeah, bean factory. That is also for the similar purpose. So let me, I'll not really create it, but factory. Oops. 1 second, I need to stay focused. My bean factory dot get bean. See here you have these methods here as well. There is some difference between bean factory and application context, but I'll not talk about the bean context now. Uh, but they both are them, for basic stuff. If I just need to access, outsource my bean creation part to external guys, that is to Spring framework, either I use bean factory or application context, both of them are kind of same. Bean factory is a very limited version of application context. Application context has lot of other support, and I'll not talk about that now. What the basic thing that I'm trying to discuss and explain you is how the Spring actually, like the core of the Spring is, the logic is that Spring started with dependency injection or inversion of control. This also called inversion of control. Dependency injection is that whenever my class needs or it depends on other objects, so we tend to call create objects and then call those methods and the objects. Now whenever I need something, every bean need to do that, and that object creation pattern, there is a pattern in the object creation. Whenever I need, I am going to create that particular object, right? So you can take that pain out of your application and outsource it to external guy, and that is Spring framework. That is the basic of Spring framework, okay? Basis of Spring framework. But now, honestly, Spring has so many modules in the init, and it's actually like, I'm sure that not everyone knows every module of the Spring framework. Now let us see that what it has. And this is an old version, but still it has, say, look at, the core is that IOC container, that is, application context logic that we are talking about, that is a core. But on top of it, you have, if you look at, web, see here, you can integrate with struts, you can integrate with, there is another thing called Spring MVC, and there are a lot of integration support is there. Then you can do easy base, you can do remoting, Spring remoting is there, like, JMS, JCX, JCA. Then you have Hibernate, you can integrate Hibernate, or JPA is Java Persistence API from Java specification. Toplink is another similar to Hibernate. JDBO, Java database objects, Java data objects, I guess. OJB, I'm not sure. Hibernate is again similar to Hibernate. Spring JDBC, then the transaction. There are various modules within the Spring framework, and actually, honestly, this is a minimal list here, because this. You look at the URL. This is a 2.0 Spring framework 2.0. Then you have. There is a Spring batch is there. Spring integration is there. At least, I'm trying to recollect what are the modules that I worked with, or what I'm working with. Spring remoting, Spring batch, Spring integration. There's so many of them. But then it is to get started. First thing is you need to have idea about how the Spring framework really works. Technically talking about, you have an XML file and declare your beans there, and you should know how to initialize your context. You're done. But then the primary purpose it is trying to solve is that, I did discuss that yesterday, is that, you want your application to be scalable. Say tomorrow I want to change my calculator implementation. I want, instead of my calculator, say if I want to use another thing called custom calculator, and then if I want to run my application, and the application is working now because we built this with Spring framework, and I just did a change in the Spring Bean configuration. That's it. I did not, really go to the Java classes and change any implementation. I did not do any changes in the implementation. Rather, I modified the Spring application, the configuration file. That's how I was able to make, it is very simple, and the magnitude of this benefit becomes multiplied when the application is really complex. Real life applications are not always, as simple as a calculator application. Right, even within the calculator, I can make, we can make it so complex that, it can add, strings, it can add numbers, it can add, whatever we know about, mathematics, you can do that with the calculator. And then it becomes, again, a bigger complex thing. But such as, I try to explain this concept to you, and this is a quick revision of it. I hope I was successful in confusing you even more. So you please go and try this out. Okay, try this out. Email me if you have any doubts. So now reset your minds. We'll go and try something else. We'll try the Hibernate part. We will try the Hibernate part. All of you have installed the tools, Hibernate tools that I talked about to the Eclipse plugins. I sent you an email, right? Other day, 2 days back. Jimmy?
Yeah.
Okay. Nilima?
Yeah.
Okay. How about it? You installed it? Manaspita? So I send you, basically like, Hibernate, the concept I'm going to explain with that particular tool, whatever plugin that I'm talking about. I'll explain that, I'll explain that, and we will figure that out. So what I did is that from the Hibernate libraries, I added the bare minimum required libraries back to here libraries. There is something called required. So this required folder, all the jars I copied from, you need to download Hibernate, by the way. You need to download Hibernate, Hibernate, you go to internet. Okay. When I was working, actually it was 3.5 was latest, I guess, this month, 6 months back or so, and now they did, the latest version is out there. That's where, you become absolute. You don't work on some particular technology for a couple of years, then that means next you need to start from the scratch, because next version of the product, then they introduce, they revamp everything. There are a lot of new things, and then old things are not there anymore, something like that. So it becomes like, you become absolute. You need to refresh again, you know, start learning. So this is what you can download the Spring Framework. You can download the Spring Framework, download the and let me paste the link here in the GoToMeeting. And once you have the link, you download this, and once you download and extract it, it comes like this. Okay, this is the folder, and now I am mandatorily taking these particular things, right? So what I'm doing is, in my application now, I created a folder called Hibernate, and then lib, I added these jars there. Now I want to actually do the Hibernate part into this particular folder. So what I'll do is new, follow me, and because I assume that you already have Hibernate tools plugin installed, so this is what I'll be doing. New console configuration. See here in the new, I went to there, and the Hibernate and new Hibernate console configuration. Click this, and where is that configuration exists? Okay, it says that it remember the old one. I don't know how. Hibernate JPA project configured connection. Okay, let me select that, and configuration file. I'll explain the theory part a little later. I'm storing this file into Hibernate folder, and let me give a name, say for session factory, and dialect is the language that you speak. I speak in MySQL language, and within MySQL you have multiple things. And now what is the driver? com.mysql.jdbc, connection URL. Okay, so we need to change the URL. What is it? Localhost colon 3306, isn't it? And okay. Come on, let me start. Application, the DB name is Office 3306 and localhost. Now the schema name is Office, catalog is also Office, username is root, and my password is secret. This guy should actually have hidden the password field. Okay, so now what I have is the configuration file. It generates something called hibernate.cfg.xml. Now let me say the JPA persistence unit found null. Okay, mappings common. No, this is not mandatory. So what I have is options, the dialect. Okay, that's pretty much fine. Okay, this is an XML file. What we did was that to generate an XML file, that particular presentation. Now this is called Hibernate configuration. Hibernate.cfg.xml is cfg, nothing but configuration. Okay, so this XML file is the heart of Hibernate, using Hibernate. Here I say that, basically what I'm providing is that the details about the database connection. Details about the database connection. And the next step is, I want to create, I want to do console configuration. Yeah. What I did is, see here, you will see this particular icon once you install Hibernate tools. This is, you click on Hibernate code generation configurations, and it shows this. And because I created the configuration, I created is called, training_new. I named it like that. So, and here, use Java 5 syntax. That's fine. I selected couple of them, DAO code and domain code. I just selected these two of them, and oh, there is some error. Okay, now I'm not done yet. So what I'll do is create. There is something called, again, where is it? Another XML file that you need to generate. And see here, it was able to connect to the database. It was able to connect to the database. And now I selected the tables, department, designation, employee. They are the tables for us, right? Perfect. See here, and now the run button is enabled. Now let me click run, and see, it generated some code for us. It generated some code for us. And there are no annotations here. So, and delete the classes again. Let me regenerate. Use Java 5. Apply. This is fine, but DAO code use AJB syntax. Yeah. Yes. Now it should work. Department. Okay. So what I will do is, should I have this AJB? I don't think so. But Okay. Okay. I'll remove the demo code. Is it okay if I extend this class by another half an hour?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I think I'll better save time by not going with the EasyB thing. I will rather create my own Hibernate session factory. I'll not use team manager approach. Hibernate Diablo. Hibernate Diablo. Hibernate Diablo. No, 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 no. The Spring framework. And then another maybe 5 to 10 minutes, I'll have my base code working. And why do we use Hibernate? Primarily, like as I keep doing this, let me speak as well. Hibernate is used to connect to database and to do designation. What happened in this? Yeah. Similarly, and the benefit it provides is that there's a pattern, design pattern called ORM, Object Relational Mapping. Uh, right. So equal to build session factory. Perfect. That's fine. For now, let me discard that. I'll do that further, but first thing I want to do is an establish Hibernate connectivity, and then what else I need to do is yeah, I must get some exceptions, I guess so. Unknown entity department. Ah, okay. Get ID. What is it? Class. Okay. Class. And I want to get a particular department. So initially, it takes a little time to set up things, but then once you are there, cast it. No, even the original problem was that one. Let me see. If this works, that means we did something. You have an error in your syntax. Okay, it's able to connect to the database, but then there is a problem. Near dot department and department underscore by department. That is a big deal. I'll try to get this. I'll try to say this employee MP equal to employee session dot get. Let me see what it is going to be. Okay, I get the same error again. And okay, perfect. Maybe I need to change my MySQL dialect. And, that is correct only. MySQL. This is same. There's no problem with the dialect. Let me see the query that it is generating. Oh, okay. Office.employee. Huh. Such a stupid query it is. So what I will do is perfect. See now let me print this emp dot get first name. You can print all those values. Okay. Now let me explain. Okay, let me explain. The things that I did was that to start with, I created a folder and as Hibernate, and also I marked this as a source folder, basically, like, here if I look at, Hibernate, training slash Hibernate is a source folder, right? And then I try to I added all the libraries that I explained already, Hibernate libraries, and then I clicked new, and I said I created a Hibernate configuration file. Did I create Hibernate configuration file? I think I directly try to create. Yeah, I try to create. Let me do file new other Hibernate console configuration. I try to create Hibernate console configuration. One moment. So I created a Hibernate configuration file, and here what I did was I selected annotations. Then I said Hibernate configured. I mean, this setting was there, and the only change I did was to set up here. I created a create new using create new. If I use create new and say suppose if I give a different name now, I actually here I fill the values selected. I mean there is a drop down values here. Driver I want to, you can select the second one, com dot this driver, MySQL driver. Connection URL, I filled the connection URL. Okay, and default schema, I think better not to give that. I had some problem with it. Then username, password, and some factory name. So session factory, or you can give something whatever you prefer, like giving some text. Then click finish. That means I have that file is generated. And then what I did was click um, finish, and when I do that, it went to src folder. I don't need this file anyway. Okay, then what I did was I created a configuration file. So the exercise I did so far is that create a configuration file, and as part of that give the Hibernate, the database connection details. Okay, set up here, configuration you can create explicitly, but you can do this as well and use existing, and this is pretty much fine. And options, there is nothing much you can do here. And then you go to this particular icon on the toolbar. Okay, and you say that Hibernate, you select that and say export. I want, I don't even want, the DAO stuff. I say that use Java 5 syntax and generate EJB3 annotations. EJB3 annotations, yeah, you need to select these two things, and don't select anything else, only domain code. Okay, only domain code. Then there's nothing else. That's it. You simple steps. When you do that, your classes are generated. I already have. So the package also we specified. So it created Java objects. See here in the Hibernate, what the important thing is that actually, like there are two ways you can use Hibernate, but I'm explaining you the easiest way using annotations. Now in this annotation, the Java object is mapped to a table, and you see here @entity. Entity means that, okay, this is a DB object. Okay, and which table I am mapping? I'm mapping to a table called department, and catalog is office. The database name is office. Then unique constraint equal to, I say that, what is the unique constraint in this table? That's there in the database, right? For the department name, we gave that as a what do you call a unique constraint. So then it generates, the mappings, Java objects for your table, and you can pretty much see that for id, for get methods of these beans, this is something for only explanation purpose. The code is generated. This id @id means primary key. Generated value means that your strategy equal to identity. This again takes some time to explain, but this is primarily to mean that this id gets generated automatically. Then column name. So the Java property id here in the class, and which column name it maps to. Similarly, this is for the ID. For only ID, you have some extra stuff. For other properties, simple. Column, name equal to name, un equal to true, and length. DB column length, actually it automatically detected and placed it here. So that, you never give a value more than DB column. And then it actually this takes some effort to understand, or maybe we let us skip. This is for the primary key, foreign key mapping. So department has, say employees are, every employee will have some department associated with it, right? So if you want for a given department, what are the employees who are there, for a given departments, the employees for the particular department, if you want to get that, you can use this. So this is also generated. I can show how it works. So it generates, the beans like this. And then employee bean is here. For employee also, for the three of them, it is in the similar fashion. But for employee, the interesting thing is that, the manager ID, it comes in a different way. I'll explain that. I think it's difficult for me to now explain that now at present. But what I'm trying to say is that for every table row, to represent any row, you have a Java object. Say if I say employee, that means one row in the employee table. Okay, so the mappings, complete mappings are actually there. You can pretty much use hand code this particular file. You can write this file on your own, but it is possible that we do a lot of mistakes and our code will never work. But if you, to start with, I generated using Hibernate tools. You can actually avoid using Hibernate tools, but I use that. I use the Hibernate tools to generate these files for me, and then I wrote a DAO file. And the DAO my DAO code is bare minimum. I just wrote a main method, and I'm trying to say get an employee from the database. How am I doing? Session, there is something called, initialization. This first part is initializing the configuration of Hibernate. So this will read, the DB connection from the file hibernate.cfg.xml. I don't need to specify that explicitly because it will assume that that file exists, and you can, just write this line, first line. This will create a configuration, Hibernate configuration, and then also I actually try to explicitly add these files, add annotated class. This also can be avoided. You can specify that in XML file, but for now I did like this. So when I specified, I'm actually saying that these are the Hibernate beans that I have. You try to read these files. Use these files. I'm going to use them. So that's what, we are restricting the Hibernate. Now there is another thing called session factory, and there is something called session. So these two lines also I'll try not explaining too much. So here what I'm getting is I'm getting a session. Session is it's kind of, synonym for a JDBC connection. It is kind of synonym for JDBC connection. Now when I use Hibernate, I look at the data only in terms of, domain. What I have in my domain, I have an employee, I have a department, I have designation, and there is employee belongs to, or employee has a department, employee has a designation. I look at, that is what your business logic. And I don't want to look at, database at all, in the sense select star from employee, select star from department, those are JDBC queries or SQL queries. If I don't want to look at that, or I want to look at, only from a business perspective, that is where it comes, ORM, the word called ORM. object relational mapping. So meaning that, I have my Java object, I'm mapping relational means database tables, right? Object, RDBMS is relational database, right? So object means Java object and relation, a table, okay? And you try to map between these two, and the benefit is that nicely your Java domain object, you only worry about the Java domain object, and Hibernate takes care of talking to the database. Here I did not open any connection. I did not open any connection, and I directly am just querying. Now let me create an employee. Another equal to new employee. Should I have, okay, and designation. Sorry. So designation is, let me give that as a null, and or say I let me query one designation as well, and equal to uh, nation of session dot get nation dot class. See this, it's actually simply by using this I'm actually able to query, I'm getting a designation object, meaning what it will do is select star from the internal query is select star from designation where id equal to 1. Hibernate will be using a query like that. Employee, let me make my employee number 1 as my boss. So then department, I'll say department, let me give that as a null. Username, say Rafullah. Password is test 1. Last name, for birth date, the parameter is, it's a date, okay. Yeah, or let me set that as a null. Then sorry, what was this parameter, last but one, it's a email id, I guess, right? Yeah, email id. So I'm creating this bean. For now employees also, let me give this as a null. Okay, now what I will do is session dot save. Let me see it's going to work or not. Yeah, new employee ID is 5. See here, I'm able to, the insertion query has become very simple. I can pretty much do cmd mysql minus u root minus p views office start from employee. See, what happened? It says it created employee, and where is the employee? Now the employee should be created and it should be there somewhere, right? Now where is that guy should be there here. Interesting. And which database this guy is getting connected to? Now, ID wise, he is giving correct IDs, and I'm getting data as well properly, and that actually means interesting thing. Session dot get, let me say employee dot class. Say suppose 6. Let me query this guy, and let me say employee p6 equal to this, and employee get user name. This is interesting. Where this guy is storing this data, I'm not really sure. Oh. Actually it shows as if it is saved, that number is coming correctly, and okay, maybe let's say the sequence number is correct. But what I'll do is, I think if you I'll stop it for now. If you guys are okay, I'll actually revisit, I mean, I'll explain this once more, so that uh, you will have a little better understanding. But basically what I'm trying to do is introduce how these frameworks are used, how these frameworks are actually they really mean, and how we can use them, the basic hello world kind of samples. So I think if you have time, we'll meet again tomorrow. We will meet again tomorrow, and we'll discuss more on the Hibernate, and also maybe 10-15 minutes I'll explain this, whatever I'm doing now. I'll explain this again, and then we will close our training. It is fine. I'll commit this code anyway. What you can do is, actually